I fell in love with my best friend's husband. And what happened next will shock you. Listen, I need to tell you something that has been eating me up for years. And he asked me so many things that you won't believe. Stay here until the end, because I'm going to tell you everything and I guarantee you'll be amazed. Before I dive into this emotional roller coaster, please hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with someone who needs to hear this story. Your support means everything to me, and it helps me continue sharing these real-life confessions. When I was 22 years old, I got a job as a waitress at a local restaurant. It was nothing fancy, just a place to pay the bills while I figured out my life. That's where I met her, let's call her V. She worked the same position as me, and initially, we were just co-workers sharing the usual complaints about difficult customers and long shifts. But something beautiful happened over those months. We discovered we had so much in common. Our conversations flowed effortlessly. We shared the same sense of humor, and before I knew it, she had become one of my closest friends. Even after I left that restaurant job, our friendship continued to grow stronger. I remember the day she invited me to her son's second birthday party. I was genuinely excited to meet her family and see this important part of her life. The party was lovely, balloons everywhere, children laughing, and the warmth of a family celebration. V introduced me to everyone, and I felt so grateful to be included in such an intimate gathering. Then came the moment that changed everything. She walked me over to meet her partner. They weren't officially married, but they lived together and had been together for years in every way that mattered. He was her husband. I had seen a photo of him on her phone before, but nothing could have prepared me for meeting him in person. When he stood there in front of me, I felt something I had never experienced before. This man was absolutely stunning. He had this magnetic presence, charming smile, and eyes that seemed to see right through me. I'm usually shy around new people, so I thought my nervousness was just my typical social anxiety. But this was different. This was something much more dangerous. I could feel my heart racing, my palms getting sweaty, and I couldn't seem to form coherent sentences. V probably thought I was just being awkward, but the truth was far more complicated. I was instantly, completely, and hopelessly attracted to her partner. And the worst part, I could tell he felt something too. We kept catching each other's eyes across the room, these lingering glances that felt charged with electricity. At some point during the party, he introduced me to one of his friends. This guy spent the rest of the evening talking to me, and we even had a brief romantic moment later on, but my heart wasn't in it. How could it be? I had just experienced what felt like love at first sight with someone who was completely off limits. I went home that night unable to think about anything else. His face, his voice, the way he looked at me, it was all consuming. I felt terrible about these feelings. Here I was, in my friend's home, falling for her partner. What kind of person does that? I was so conflicted that I ended up talking to my aunt about it. She was like a second mother to me, someone I trusted completely. When I told her everything I was feeling, she was direct and firm. She told me to stay away, that this would only lead to heartbreak and destroyed relationships. She said I should find someone who was actually available. I knew she was right. Logic told me to run in the opposite direction, so I tried to distance myself from V. I started making excuses not to see her, claiming I was busy studying for a public service exam. She noticed the change in our friendship and asked about it, but I couldn't tell her the truth. But the feelings didn't go away. If anything, trying to suppress them made them stronger. I found myself watching romantic movies and reading love stories, looking for some kind of guidance or justification for what I was experiencing. Then I watched this film where the main character talked about not being able to control who you love, about fighting for your feelings even when it's complicated. In my emotional state, I took this as some kind of sign from the universe telling me not to give up. So I made a decision that would change everything. I decided to get closer to V again, but this time with an ulterior motive. I was going to try to get closer to her partner. I know how terrible that sounds, and believe me, I knew it was wrong even then. But I was young, overwhelmed by feelings I didn't understand, and I convinced myself that somehow this was meant to be. I started hanging out with V again and eventually added her partner on social media. He seemed happy to connect with me, But he mentioned that we should keep our friendship quiet so V wouldn't get the wrong idea. Looking back, that should have been a massive red flag, but at the time, it felt like we were sharing something special. Our conversation started innocently enough. He asked about his friend who had shown interest in me at the party. I told him that his friend was nice, but I was interested in someone else, someone who wasn't available. He kept asking questions, trying to figure out who I was talking about, and I could tell he was starting to understand that I meant him. That's when things began to escalate. He started complimenting me, telling me I was beautiful and attractive. Then he began sharing more personal things, photos from his gym workouts, talking about his fitness transformation. When he sent me those pictures, I was completely mesmerized. This man had an incredible physique, and seeing those images made my attraction to him even more intense. I decided to be bold. I sent him a message saying I was going out and needed his opinion on which outfit to wear. I sent him photos of me in very short shorts, showing off my legs. His response was immediate and enthusiastic. He was clearly as attracted to me as I was to him. The next day, he surprised me by sending a photo of himself after his workout, barely clothed, and asking if I wanted to see more. I was losing all sense of reason at this point. When he asked if I wanted to see the complete package, I knew exactly what he meant, and I said yes. What followed was an exchange of intimate photos and increasingly heated conversations. I felt like I was living in some kind of movie. It was thrilling and terrifying at the same time. I knew what we were doing was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. Eventually, we arranged to meet at a motel. That encounter was everything I had imagined and more. The chemistry between us was explosive. He made me feel things I had never experienced before, desired, passionate, completely alive. It was like being transported to another planet. But even in those moments of incredible pleasure, I was haunted by the fear of V discovering our secret. We continued meeting like this for months. We were reckless, meeting in all kinds of places, even outdoors sometimes. The thrill of secrecy mixed with the intensity of our physical connection created this addictive cycle I couldn't break. Then he shared a fantasy with me that should have been my wake-up call. He wanted to make love to me in his and V's bed, in their home, and he wanted me to wear her underwear while we did it. Even in my infatuated state, this request felt wrong on a level I couldn't ignore. But by this point, I was so deep into this situation that I felt like I couldn't say no when you're already doing something this wrong. Where do you draw the line? He had it all planned out. V and their child would be visiting her parents for the weekend. He would drop them off, then come get me. But here's the part that still makes me cringe. To avoid being seen, I would have to hide in the trunk of his car. I actually agreed to this. I spent that ride cramped in darkness, uncomfortable and scared, but still focused on the excitement of what was about to happen. When we got to their house, I hesitated. Being in V's home, in her personal space, felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. But I went through with it. We went to their bedroom, and yes, I ended up wearing her underwear like he wanted. He assured me he would clean everything afterward, use disinfectant, make sure there were no traces. I had stopped wearing perfume to our meetings to avoid leaving any scent behind. We were acting like criminals, and maybe that's exactly what we were. The most disturbing part was how he talked about V during our intimate moments. He would criticize her, say negative things about her, and somehow that gave me a twisted sense of satisfaction. I'm ashamed to admit that hearing him put her down made me feel like I was winning some kind of competition. After that night, everything changed. He became distant and cold. It was clear he wanted to end whatever we had been doing, but I couldn't accept that. In my mind, if anyone was going to end this relationship, it should be me, not him. I felt like he was treating me like I didn't matter. When he blocked me on social media, I lost it completely. I borrowed someone else's phone and sent him a message demanding that he unblock me immediately. I threatened to tell V everything if he didn't. I was ready to blow up both of our lives if that's what it took to get his attention back. He unblocked me, and we started talking again, though he remained distant. That's when I came up with the most destructive plan of this entire story. I convinced him to meet me at their house one more time. He was reluctant, but eventually agreed. This time, however, I went there with a specific goal in mind. I brought one of my used underwear with me and hid it on top of V's wardrobe. I knew she would find it. I knew she would know it didn't belong to her. And I knew it would destroy their relationship. The next day, exactly what I expected happened. V found the underwear, confronted him, and their relationship exploded. She broke up with him, and he came running to me. We ended up together, but it didn't last long. Ironically, I was the one who ended things with him. I had gotten what I thought I wanted, but the reality of being with someone who could betray his partner so easily made me question everything. After we broke up, V forgave him, and they got back together. I thought that was the end of this chapter of my life. I tried to move on, learn from my mistakes, and become a better person. But life had one more incredible twist in store. 5 years later, I was at a party, enjoying myself and barely thinking about this old drama, when I saw them, V and her partner together, looking happy. I hadn't spoken to either of them in years. I assumed V hated me, and I wouldn't have blamed her. But then something happened that I never could have predicted. They both approached me together and made a proposal that left me speechless. They asked if I would be interested in a relationship with both of them, a three-way romantic arrangement. I was stunned. Here was V, the woman I had betrayed in the worst possible way, suggesting that we all be together. Part of me wondered if I should have just been honest with her from the beginning about my feelings for her partner. But I also realized that back then, she never would have been open to this kind of arrangement. People change. Perspectives evolve. I agreed to try it. For a while, the three of us had this unique relationship. After all the drama, betrayal, and hurt, we somehow found a way to make it work. It was complicated and unconventional, but there was something beautiful about finding a solution that honored all of our feelings. Eventually, I moved to a different city, and our arrangement naturally came to an end. Life moved on for all of us. Looking back on this entire experience, I can see how wrong my actions were. The lying, the betrayal, the manipulation, none of it was justified, no matter how strong my feelings were. I was young and thought I was following my heart, but I was actually just being selfish and destructive. What I learned is that some situations don't have good solutions, and sometimes the right thing to do is to walk away, even when every fiber of your being wants to stay and fight. I hurt someone who trusted me. I participated in breaking up a family, and I compromised my own values in pursuit of something that ultimately wasn't worth the cost. If I could go back and do things differently, I would. I would have been honest with V from the beginning, or better yet, I would have taken my aunt's advice and stayed away entirely. Some attractions, no matter how powerful, are meant to remain unfulfilled. But I also learned that people are capable of forgiveness, growth, and surprising solutions to complex problems. The fact that V and I were eventually able to find peace and even intimacy together shows that relationships can evolve in ways we never expect. This story has been a huge part of my life journey, teaching me about desire, betrayal, forgiveness, and the complexity of human relationships. I share it not to glorify the choices I made, but to be honest about the messy reality of being human and making mistakes. Thank you for listening to this deeply personal confession. This is actually a true story shared by one of my followers from another platform, and I'm grateful they trusted me with such an intimate part of their life. If this story resonated with you in any way, please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and share it with someone who might benefit from hearing about the complexities of love, betrayal, and redemption. And please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this incredible journey. Remember, we all make mistakes, but what matters most is what we learn from them and how we choose to grow.